Just for reassurance, I can say that keywords remain with all images once they've been exported out of Lightroom, even if we then move them into another catalogue. I was 99% sure that was true, but what I've done here with the 3 images we exported as high resolution, I've opened up my finished images catalogue, and with the images selected you can actually see the keyword tags are being read just as normal. I've just opened up my 2014 RAW catalogue again, ready for the next section. Once we have our first export presets created, and in our case it was for higher resolution images, any other presets we need are likely to contain some of those same parameters. So it makes some sense to create the other presets at the same time, using what options are already there. All we need to do is adjust them and save a new preset. For example, at some stage we are going to need to export smaller images for specific reasons. Mine include images for camera club competitions, slideshows, to post on my Flickr account, and to attach to an email. And I'm sure there's many other reasons that I've not mentioned here. There are in fact no limits to the number of presets we make, but the whole point of them is that they are focused on our needs, and the vital part is that they contain our options, our preferences, and we are crystal clear about what each preset does. If we're not, they're as good as useless. If we open up our export module once again, if we go to the top of the screen, I've been using the hard drive option, but we do have 2 other options here, and one of those is an email option. Now this PC doesn't have a fully running email client because I only use it for recording these videos. However, on my other PC, this option allows me to create the export parameters for an email attachment. When the email export is run on my other PC, it automatically opens up my Windows Live email client along with a blank email with the selected image or images attached. I could add the recipient from my contact list, write the text and fire it off. It's all pretty simple and it works very well. The other option we have up here in this drop down box is to be able to write a CD or DVD. Now all we need to do is to select our images and adjust the options so we can decide whether we apply high resolution images to the CD or DVD, or whether we've got some need to create smaller ones at set sizes. Those options are all available to us. On export, the current day's date will be used to create a disk name, and the images selected will be written to that disk in the way we've determined. It's pretty quick and simple, and I did test both the email and the DVD options, and they both work equally well. Now here's a little tip about burning a CD or DVD. In a few moments we're going to be placing another preset in our user presets, but in the fullness of time, of course, we could end up with a half a dozen or more. If you want to burn a set of higher resolution images to DVD, perhaps as a hard copy backup, and you may have one of the other selections selected for a previous job, then all you've got to do is come back to the one you want, whatever that is, and select it, because all those parameters will then feature here, and then all we've got to do is to go up and select the CD or DVD, and it's these settings that will be applied to the DVD. So let's set up our export parameters for these 3 images. These are the 3 high resolution images we looked at in the previous video. So export, and we can start from the top with the export location. Now here I need to change it because what I generally do is to put my Flickr images into a dedicated folder. So I'm going to click choose, and I'm going to navigate to my finished images. I do place my Flickr images in here, but they need to be within the 2014 folder because at some stage we will click over into 2015. So they need to live inside that folder. But I can create my Flickr folder here. So I'll do that from the top of the screen there. And I generally save my Flickr images in exactly the same way as I save my high resolution images. But what I think I'll do is I'll use this as the address, and we'll use the month that we're working on as a subfolder. So let's select that folder, Flickr. There you can see the address. So in the subfolder it'll be July this month, and I'll just adjust it next month to be August. I don't want to add them to the catalogue, and if we do have any duplicates, but I doubt it, but if we do, then I want to be asked what to do. Let's move on to the next option, which is file naming. I'm going to stay with my custom name and original file number, and my custom text here, believe it or not, will be simply Flickr. And there we can see it, and we can move on. No video, file settings. Yes, we do want to save these as a JPEG. The setting here is 80%. I'm quite happy with that, but 60% may also be okay too. But Flickr are giving us an enormous amount of space these days, so as long as you've got a reasonably good internet connection, I'm not sure that the compression is that valid anymore. Colorspace Srgb, because most of these images are going to be seen solely on screen, and no, I don't need to limit the file size to any particular size. So from there we can close that file settings and move on to image sizing. Here we do need to tick this, because I like to limit the size of the files I put up on Flickr. I know you don't have to, and you can use the controls within Flickr, but I just choose this way because I've done it for so long. We have a number of options in this drop down box to save a file. Now the important one for us here is the long edge. I always standardize mine on 1200 pixels because I think that's a nice size to fit on laptops and most PCs, a good size image without being too big or too small. But if I just select the long edge, what the software is going to do when I put the size of the long edge I want, which is 1200, it will take care of the height of the image for me and obviously keep it in register with the length of the image so we don't get any distortion. Let's close that. Output sharpening. Here I'm going to choose to tick the box. We're going to be using these images on screen. I'm going to use the amount as standard because we are taking quite a few pixels out of these images, and when we do that we sometimes do soften the image a little bit. But there's three options in here: low, standard and high. And generally speaking, standard seems to work pretty good, and that's why it was selected as a default. Let's close that down and open up the Metadata tab. Here it's all personal once again, so there's not a great deal I can say about this that I've not already said before. Watermarking I don't use. Post-processing, it really isn't relevant with what we're doing here. So at this stage we can hit the Add button and call this Flickr, and we're done. Now looking at that alongside my finished images, should I have put Flickr images? No problem. Right click and I can choose to rename. Now remember when we was looking at the export location just a few moments ago, and I said at the end of the month I'll change this to August and then September and so on and so on. When and if we do make any changes to any of these presets that relate to any of these, we can then go to the relevant one. So if I change this to August for Flickr images, I can right click and I can update that folder with the current settings. So what we need to do now is to check to make sure that what we think is going to happen when I hit export actually does. So let's click it. Looking up at the top left of the screen, we can see that it seems to be exporting 3 files. So I'm going to go to my Windows Explorer, and I caught it in the act there. If I go back to photography, finished images, 2014, there's the Flickr folder I created manually. Inside of that, it's created our July folder for us, and there we can see the 3 files. And if I highlight them, we can see that all of these are 1200 pixels on the long side. In fact, they are all 800 pixels on the short side too, because none of them have been cropped. But of course, had an image been cropped into a letterbox shape, then what we would have seen there is the dimensions along the long side 1200, but the height will be in register with the image. So as if by magic, I brought you back into Lightroom, and I've just quickly cropped this image into a long shape. I don't want to deal with the crop tool now. I'd like to deal with that in an isolated way a little bit later. But if I go to my export options this time and I hit export for Flickr, now if we give it a few seconds to do its work, if we go back into Windows Explorer, now you can see the difference. We still retain the dimensions on the long side of 1200 pixels, but to keep the registration between the width and the height as I created it with my crop, that's come out at 450, but of course Lightroom took care of that for me. Now I've been quite happy with our 2 videos to create my own presets and just let them drop into the Lightroom user preset folder, which we can tidy up if we wish. But we can create our own folder. If we select one of our presets, we could adjust it in the same way as we've done before. And when we click the add, I could choose from here a new folder. So if I had a special task to create a number of presets to do something special, then I could create it here. And once I create that, then I can put my presets inside the special task, and once I've completed my work with them, I can just highlight the whole lot and remove them.